So welcome back to another episode, and welcome to my secrets. It was not clickbait. I am going to talk about some of the secrets that I've held back from talking about on the show. Some fun, some I've been a little bit embarrassed about, and we're going to talk about all of them today. And that sounds like a funny way to get into this episode, but I'll start off with one of the more interesting ones, and then we're going to get into the fun ones after this. Okay, probably around 6 years ago, I started to realize that something was going a little bit weird for me. I had changed in a lot of ways. I was really into handheld gaming before that, and then all of a sudden I realized I just was kind of getting tired of it. I was just like, I'm not really into handheld gaming anymore, and I couldn't understand why, because I still loved all the games and stuff like that, but I found myself getting really... I play for a little bit and I get kind of tired, put it down, and this was going on for a long time, and it was really starting to frustrate me why this had happened. I'm like, what's changed in my life? And then, I also noticed that I was reading a lot less. I used to be a big, huge reader. I used to love Dungeons and Dragons books, and I was getting more and more D&D books, but I wasn't keeping up to date on them. I wasn't reading them as much. I had piles of stuff to get through. And I'd read for a little bit, kind of done. And it was kind of done for me. This is something that I haven't wanted to admit to for a long time. I finally, a few months ago, figured out what the issue was. And the issue was, I was getting my hair cut one day, and one of the other people cutting somebody's hair, he's like, oh, Johnny, I just got glasses, and I have my old reading glasses here, type of thing. He was telling me about how he's upgraded his reading glasses, and I was like, I said, I don't know if I need glasses or anything. I've never really checked into that. So he's like, oh, try these. You can have these. Just give them a shot. And there's some reading glasses. I put them on, and I picked up this book, and I'm not joking, I almost got a small tear. Because, oh my God, I hate admitting this. This is a secret that I have held back, that I needed reading glasses, and I use them all the time. I can see far away fine, but close up for reading. I didn't want to admit it in a way, because in a way I'm like admitting I'm getting older. And I think that's something that I didn't want to admit, because inside of myself, I feel like I'm 20 years old, still playing video games and all that. And I'm not knocking anybody with glasses, because my wife has worn glasses her whole life. She cannot see at all without glasses. It's really tough for her. But for me, I don't know. I'm talking about for me, just personally, I didn't want to admit that. And let me tell you though, this is kind of a cool thing, is that once I got reading glasses, I got back into handheld gaming again. I was just like, yes, playing video games again, and I could see perfectly, and it was the most amazing thing. I mean, it's kind of like the second coming of my life in that regard. Could you imagine? I didn't realize that for the last 5, 6, maybe even longer, that I was having such a hard time reading and seeing, but I wouldn't admit to myself, so I was blaming it on the media. Oh, it's books, I'm just tired of the books. Oh, it's handhelds, I'm just tired of the handhelds. When it wasn't any of those things, it was my eyesight the whole time. And let me say, now I sit in the other room and I got a pile of books, and I'm annihilating books like I used to, and it just feels so good back into D&D reading again, and I am just absolutely loving it. And that was one of the hard things. When I did the 10-year anniversary live stream, I didn't want to admit that I needed glasses, so I had the handheld device, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, I didn't want to admit that I couldn't read the questions. I didn't want to admit that I couldn't read the questions, and I was having such a hard time, and I didn't want to put on glasses, because everybody would be like, oh, he wears glasses, and it's so stupid, but people really notice everything when you do a show online. I remember in the first 2 weeks I got married, me and Kim, when we're like making food or something like this, I always take my ring off. I don't want to lose it down the drain. And one time I was doing some cooking stuff, and I came in, I did an episode in the first 2 weeks I got married, and I didn't have my ring on. And then there was somebody in the comments going, Johnny, oh my God, is everything okay? You don't have your wedding ring on. I hope you and Kim are fine. And I just remember going, holy over fucking reactions. And I remember writing to the guy, I'm like, dude, talk about overreacting, dude. Like, take it easy. So I kind of know that if I, going forward, that if I'm doing something and I need to read something, I can put on my glasses and I can read it and not feel I've admitted it to the world. It's out there now. I can't take it back. And that was one of the first things I want to talk about. And it's one I'm just kind of glad to get out of the way. But now I can get into some fun ones of things that I've kind of held back talking about. And I'm going to explain why. Is that I'm into a lot of other hobbies. I'm into things that I've alluded to, I've hinted at, but I've never really kind of gotten into talking about. And the reason why I haven't talked about them is because I've been, because I talk about video games so much in the show, that sometimes I feel that I don't have anything just to myself. And these things are very much just for me, these hobbies, and they're very therapeutic for me, and it's really, really good for me. And I'll just get into the first one. Warhammer. I really, really like Warhammer. And I have since me and my friends, which was Rob's brother and his friends, and we all were friends back then, like we all played all of these games. Let me explain. I never could afford Warhammer games back then. They were way too expensive, even back then, in 1988. And they were playing things like, Warhammer Fantasy Battle, Space Hulk, and Blood Bowl. And I did something this Christmas that was so fun. Is back when in 88, I would watch all my friends play Blood Bowl, and I do not like it's a game of fantasy football with monsters and stuff like that and elves. I've never been a sports fan in that regard. I'm not a football fan. I never even before this understood how the game played, but I love the idea of this, and I love the characters, and I love the field setting, and I don't know. I thought there was something fun about killing your opponents on the field. And I know there's been video games since then, but I've always avoided the video games. To me, it's always been about the board game style experience. And what we're getting into as well, that some of my friends back then were incredible painters of miniatures. And I was a rush painter back then. I'd buy a miniature, I'd have like 3 paints or something, and I'd paint it real quick. Oh, here it goes, and it looked terrible. And I couldn't understand why. Where this Christmas, I was like, fuck it. I'm going to buy the Blood Bowl box set, the newest one by Games Workshop. And so I bought the set, and I was like, okay, this is exciting. And I watched a bunch of painting tutorials, and I thought, I'm going to buy this set, and I'm going to paint all these goddamn miniatures. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it right. And so I found out the bases of all the miniature colors that I would need, because to buy all the paints is really expensive for this hobby. It's ridiculous. And I was like, you know what? I can mix colors. I have been an artist in my life. I knew how I could mix colors and get other colors that I needed to complete this. So it was so amazing. Christmas had come. I'd had this box set. And then we're just kind of like, just after Christmas, I was really sick. And then I was like, okay, we're going to do this. And I set up the other room. I brought in all these lights, and you want to hear something funny? This is great. I not only had one pair of glasses on when I was doing my painting, I had 2 on. I had the ultra magnifying glass thing going on, and it was incredible. And so I primed all of the figures with the primer, and then I started painting. And here's what I gotta say. This was like being hypnotized. It was so therapeutic in a completely different way than I could have ever imagined. I had 2 teams to paint, the ogres and the humans, and each team took me 12 hours to paint each. And I'd never done a kind of a professional paint job. I just was going to do my paint job, but I'd followed how you were going to, how you do it well. And I sat there every night, and there was nights when I'd paint for 6 hours, and I went into this kind of Zen aura thing that I used to get when I used to do art, and I was a big artist for years, animator, all that kind of stuff, and I haven't done that for a long time. And I was as high as a kite. When I'd finished painting, I had to go and get air outside. I was like, I felt so good, and it made me feel so amazing. I can't quite explain it. It was such a euphoric feeling by painting these damn miniatures. And so after a good, it was a good week and a half of painting them, I finished both teams. And it was a journey back to 1988 where all my friends could afford all of this stuff and I could never afford a box set like this or paint to paint miniatures. I could never do that. They all could. Their parents bought them all this stuff. My parents never would. And it was a way of revisiting my childhood in a way that was so amazing. And I went back to 1988 and it was really kind of amazing in myself that I was almost saying like, look what I did, guys. I was saying it to them back then. And I had the whole field out. And I had all the miniatures and I painted them all and I'd done their bases. And I just sat there. And it was really also for me and my friend Andrew. My friend Andrew was around during that time, hanging out. And I phoned him up and I told him what I was going to do. And I sent him all the pictures. I didn't send many people the pictures. Nobody in my life really cares about this stuff. And I sent them him the pictures of the miniatures painted. And he's like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, you got to come out so we can play this game. And that was a really great experience. And I've taken a little bit of a break. I'm like, okay, I'm not buying any more box sets to paint because it's such a commitment. But that was something so awesome. And I also bought Hero Quest at Christmas. Me and Kim split it. And we played that all through Christmas. And it was really nice to do something that wasn't video games, that wasn't the internet, that wasn't movies or anime. To do something away from all that, kind of get back to basics in a way for my life and how I started. And those are the kinds of things that I started on. And it was really, it was so much fun. Now, another part of my life, another secret that I've really not talked about, I don't think enough, is my love for Transformers. Everything Transformers. We're talking back to G1, the movie, and after that with the Headmaster series. I love that era. That is my youth. I was like 13 years old when that was going on. It cemented in me for a lifetime. I love the movie to death, still to this day. And one of the things I always was like, I'm never getting into Transformers collecting. That's a crazy beast into itself. My friend Chris Bushi does it, who does Turbo Views. And he's been collecting Transformers for a long time, where I decided a while ago that, okay, I'm going to get into this, but I am only going to collect a small amount of stuff that means something and is fulfilling for me. And so I decided to collect the Takara Tomy Transformers collection from Japan. Not all of it, just the figures that I wanted, the figures from the movie and from the Headmaster series. I thought that was totally amazing. And just to give you some clarification, I remember when I was telling Kim that, hey, I'm going to kind of get into this Transformers thing. She's like, what? Like, what's this all about? And so I pulled out all of my artwork, all of my old artwork that I had done. Some of it I had done, God, maybe about when I was 28 years old. I'm 44 now, of Transformers, the movie 2 that I was envisioning in my mind. I did this entire comic book. Is that I don't just like toys. I don't toys, I like Transformers. They're cool. I have a deep affection for it in an artistic way. In a way that when I collect this stuff, it's not just like, oh, I have a toy. It's like, no, it's a representation of when I was 14, but I think the designs are so cool that I do the designs as well in drawing form. I love to draw this stuff out. And that all started in 1987 when I would watch the commercials for like Terracons and for all the things like that, the Headmasters and the movie. The commercials had such amazing animation back then that it was so amazing for me as a kid to draw it all out. And I still have the drawings. It's so ridiculous to see my Transformers comics from back then now that it's not just something that I'm kind of like a little bit into. It really is something to do with art for me. It's an appreciation of art and design, and that's why I like Transformers. But I also do like the characters and the music of the movie and all that a hell of a lot. It's such a wonderful time in my life that the Transformers also now, the Japanese Takara Transformers, I swear when I would buy Blur, from the movie back in 1987, it looked great in vehicle mode, but when you transformed it, it looked terrible in robot mode. They're like the worst thing ever, where now in, the car mode or whatever, it looks great, but in robot mode, it looks fantastic as well. It looks like it did in the anime, in the cartoon of the Transformers back then. And it's so amazing, and I've really had a wonderful time revisiting Transformers over the years and collecting some of this stuff. And there's something about the Japanese artwork for Transformers that is so absolutely amazing. I don't really collect a lot of the American stuff. I try to stay away from that, even though Takara Tomy is basically the same thing, but with better paint jobs and some remodeled bits on there here and there. But wow, I just wanted to come in and just talk about some of the other things that I am into besides video games, and talk about that, yes, I wear reading glasses. I am guilty as charged, but it's made my life way, way better. And that a lot of these hobbies and a lot of these things I'm into are so fulfilling, and they do mean something emotional to me. They're not just things that I kind of do, like, oh, I like video games, I play video games. There's an emotion to it, and there's emotion into all of the things that I do in my life, especially reading now, because I can finally do it again. It's absolutely wonderful. So I just wanted to come and share some of the things I've kind of held back and haven't talked about a lot. So anyways, guys, until next time.